had never met my father in my life before. So everyone was wondering, what will become of your life? And I just said, God will determine what will become of me. So I had many professions I wanted to become. So first of all, I said I wanted to become a medical doctor, but my math was terrible. Then I said I wanted to become a lawyer, and then someone told me when lawyers die, they're turned upside down because they cannot meet their creator. And I said, oh, if that's the reason, then I won't become a lawyer. So I was wondering what I'll become someday till I went to Ewutu in the central region. My mom is a nurse and she was posted there. There was no electricity over there. So the radio became my friend and I was listening to BBC Focus on Africa. I heard Kweku Sechiado, how he'll take a simple story from Ghana and make it a global one, how he'll interview an ordinary human being and blow the person up. I was like, okay, I think this is what I want to become someday. So I went to senior high school. I went to Kobo Girls Senior High School. And then me that was afraid of mathematics, I was given elective maths, I was given economics, I was given geography and literature. And I was wondering, how will I sail through? So I went to the headmistress and told her to change my course. And they were like, they can't do anything about it. So the first time I wrote my elective math paper, my highest score was 2%. You're clapping for me. And I was wondering how I could do so well in literature and other subjects, and then get to elective maths, and I'm struggling. I'm even last but one in class. So I went back to the headmistress. I want to change my course. She said no. And we're inching closer to writing our WASI. But one day there was a competition in school, and they needed the best student in science and maths, as well as the best student in literature, English, and current affairs. So we went for the competition. It started with elective maths, and when the quiz master would ask the question, I'll be drawing flowers and pretending I'm actually answering a maths question. It got to science too. I was also drawing flowers, and my friends were laughing at me. So after the first 3 rounds, our school was last but one. There was left with the last round, which was English, literature, current affairs. And when we got there, the other contestants, no one could answer those questions, and I answered with a bonus. Then by the time I realized the school that was last but one became first, just because I answered the literature and then extra questions on current affairs. I learned a lesson that day that if I could focus on my strengths and work on my weaknesses, perhaps I could make it in life. So it was time for me to write my WASI. I'd done everything. It's not a case of me not understanding mathematics. I think mathematics did not understand me. So WASI time came, and then I saw the questions. Before that, I sat my mom down and I told her that, Ma, I'm going to write this paper, but I'm prophesying to you that I'm going to come out with an F in elective maths. But don't worry, I will try so hard to make it to work with my core maths so that at least I get a pass mark to the university. And she was like, what kind of prophecy is this? So WASI also came. I rewrote the questions back to the examiner, and I drew my flowers again. So lo and behold, the result came, and my prophecy came to pass. I had my F in elective maths. And then I remember school authorities asking me, what will happen, what will become of you? I said they shouldn't worry. Luckily, I did so well with my core maths. At least I had my pass mark in core maths, and then I could go to university. So while waiting for my results then, I was teaching some children in my neighborhood. So while teaching them, I'll just take a newspaper and I'll pretend as if I am a newscaster on TV3. I wasn't yet at TV3, but I'll just take and then pretend I was a newscaster, and then the kids will all be laughing. Then it was something we were doing every day. Little did I know that that was actually preparing me for my role or my career in the media. I did national service at Information Services Department at the Ministry of Information. Anytime we'll go on a break, I'll just take a newspaper and then I'll pretend as if I'm a news anchor at TV3. Then one day, a colleague of mine would just take his phone and then record me, and then we'll all be laughing. While we were doing that routine one day, we saw an advert on TV. TV3 was looking for a news anchor and journalist. And then in that room, all eyes turned to me, and they were like, this is you. I think TV3 is looking for you. But I was a very shy person, and I had big ears. Are they still big? And that day, I was in ponytail, so it meant my ears were sticking out, and I had to go and take a passport picture. So I took that passport picture with my both ears glaring out. But interestingly, when the news editor saw that picture, it is what attracted him to me, my ears. Because in his family, many people in his family had the same ears as mine. So he actually called to see me first to do the first interview. So something that I was actually running away from is actually what led to my breakthrough. And I remember I was wondering what will become of my life. I went to ICGC, and then I heard Dr. Otabo preach, and the title was The Making of a King, how God picked David up from the shepherd boy and put him into the king's palace. So I prayed a prayer that day. I was like, God, if you could do this with David, can you do the same thing with me? And I think God heard me. So I got employment at TV3 Network. And then it was just a promotion from being in the wilderness into the king's palace. Little did I know that that was where the real tests would come. So, for example, you need to learn how to speak English well. Sometimes the English you are speaking, you're actually not speaking it well. So, for example, the word says, it is actually says. Soften, the T is silent, it is soften. It's not jeopardy, it's jeopardy. It's not climb, it's climb. And then it's not bomber, it's bomber. I did not know about all these things. So with my natural training, I didn't go to any broadcasting school to learn how to read. So I'll go on air and I'll say these things, and then Uncle Tommy would call me. I was like, you butchered this word. What? And I had to relearn English again. At that time, it meant that your employers would take you off air for you to learn. And I was being given the little news bulletins to read. So I was like, okay, it's a setback for me, but I'll get myself a dictionary. Uncle Tommy would call me and then help me occasionally. And I'll relearn how to speak English once again. And then there was one time I walked to the office, and then the security man saw me and he started laughing. And I asked, what is it? He said I should pick graphic showbiz. I opened it, and there was a lecturer at the University of Ghana who had written the list of news anchors whose pronunciation were bad, and my name was part of those. I was like, oh my God, this is the end. I'm not going to read the news again. So it was time for me to read, and I actually drafted my resignation letter in my head and what I was going to do. It was time for me to read the news, and then all of a sudden, I started crying. We were on a commercial break. I started with sports news. And then I was crying, not like I was crying, ma, ma, ma. And then when they usually count down from 10, 9, 8. So it got to 3, 2, 1, and then the director will say, kill sound, take reader, cue. So immediately you hear the word cue, they'll press a button, and then that's where you see us in your homes on the television screen. So as at the time they were at 3, 2, 1, I was still crying, ma, ma, ma. And then it got to 3, 2, 1, kill sound, take reader. So just when the switcher pressed the button, guess what happened? There was light off in the whole of Ghana that day. Immediately, I knew there was a power greater than me that caused this to happen. And I was like, okay, did God send an angel to cause a problem in the whole of Ghana just for me to be saved? And I was like, if this is what actually happened, then I have no excuse than to excel in my profession. So when people were worried, it was someone else's story that I retold. And I always say that each and every one of us has a voice. Some people have a very loud voice. Others, their voices are down. So journalism or the media comes in to amplify the voices of those whose voices cannot go far. And that is why we come. And I'll just play a video shortly for you to see one of the impactful stories that I've done. I was at a village called Awawosukbeti in Asasewa, Upper Manya district of the Eastern region. And in that community, there was a family. They had a rare disease, and they've never been to school before. Yeah, let's watch it and then I'll continue. Ruth.
On 19th March 2023, I was at Awosutiti in the Upper Manyakobo district of the Eastern
On 19th March
2023, I was at Awosutiti in the Upper Manyakobo district of the Eastern region. They had never report on the Tay family who had 4 members living with a rare disease. Due to stigma, they had never experienced classroom education. After the story aired, Enlightening and Empowering People with Disabilities in Africa partnered with Free Wheelchair Mission and the Global Evangelical Church to donate wheelchairs to them. On 5th May, I returned to the community to donate the items to them.
So that's me donating some used clothing to them in the community. But the best part of it is that they had the opportunity to go back to school. So like I said early on, journalism comes in to amplify the voices of those whose voices are not really loud. So for these children, they do not even know where the district assembly is. They do not know where Ghana Education Service is. So I have to come in and serve as, so that's me going to see the district chief executive of Upper Manya Krobo district to make a case, that's the DC, to make a case for these children that they are just in the community. They are being called monkeys, they are being called dwarfs, and it's something that they need to work on. If I hadn't, that's the difference between a hit and run story. A hit and run story is a story, so I could have just gone to the community and just showcase their predicament, but I had to go back and follow up. If I hadn't done that follow up, so that's me again, going to Ghana Education Service, seeing the inclusive education director to make a case for these children to go to school. So that's the essence of journalism, to amplify the voices of those whose voices do not go far. So after this, you see them shortly in school. So that's them trying their uniforms. And for the first girl, she's 16 years. She's never stepped foot in a classroom before due to the condition that they have. So this is the first time she's wearing a school uniform. First time tasting classroom education, and that's the story that I did recently. And this, is the sound working? Yeah, just watch this one.
I was told a student, Samuel Lakono, wanted to meet me to tell his story to the world. What I did not know was that meeting him would affect me emotionally as I began to interview him.
My name is Samuel Kono. I'm a student of UEW.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm even emotional. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. It's okay. Don't talk. Don't talk. Don't talk. Don't talk. Someone, don't talk. When I came to do this interview with Samuel, I did not envisage the difficulty he'll have to go through while granting me an interview. So at this point, I'm not going to continue with this interview, but rather allow him to speak with me through different ways.
For years, Samuel has had a rare disease and endures falling, having seizures and hitting his head on walls countless times while talking or attempting to talk. We had to continue our interview through text message. Samuel told me art allows him to express himself when words fail. He wants to draw me. He tells me while some Ghanaians see him as an evil person, others run away from him. He recalled an experience in public transport when all passengers fled when he tried to tell the maid he would alight. It's a lonely world having this rare condition.
It creates a lot of stigma, and he wants to talk and everybody starts staring at you at places. So sometimes it breaks him down emotionally. During classes, and when he has to defend his work, someone will do it for him. So in where he stays too, he has someone who helps him.
Despite this challenge, Samuel is proud of one achievement, climbing the educational ladder. He's now a second-year student pursuing arts education at the University of Education, Winneba.
The lecturers at our department have done extremely well. They've all been very, very supportive. Mr. Kamobo, especially Mr. Francis Ansia. Always, Akuno is talking about this man. He's really a wonderful man.
After hours put into drawing me, Samuel presents me with a portrait. He wants the public to support his artwork so he can financially support his education as well as his medical treatment.
What he needs is financial support because art is very expensive. I think, to me, he should get someone who will be talking to him to let him do it, like a certified clinical psychologist.
He's also hopeful that someday science will advance and he will talk without difficulty. I came to interview Samuel to share his story with the world. Instead, I had more than a story, a lifetime experience about a young man who spoke through art when words failed him. If you are able to talk without difficulty, do not take it for granted. Portia Gabor, TV3 News, Kaswa, Central Region.
Tiano, what the way now? HF way no, a cat lows ni be free. Brother. Okay. See me deco. Yeah, two. Yeah, sure. What's your nini? And about nini. But when yet. Okay. Oh, okay. It's the same. Okay. Hello.
Powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that is power because they can control the minds of people. But the big question is, what are you using your power for? Thank you.